We currently partner with 49 programs in 11 colleges, and this creates a large interdisciplinary network of fellows with links across campus, across Tucson and beyond. So we look at our work in 7 different categories, and we have art and design. That includes art education, museum studies, landscape architecture, a variety of environmental programs like agriculture, resource economics, and environmental studies. Education, that's ESL, rhetoric, composition, things like teacher education, and language, reading, and culture. A lot of social sciences, such as the geography program, development practice, Latin American studies, and the iSchool. We have management, administration, and planning. That encompasses the MBA program, the public administration, and various planning programs. STEM, this is where hydrology, biosystems, environmental, and the engineering degrees would fall under there. And then health, which is where I am. I'm a public health student in my 2nd year of the fellowship. I served in Senegal. I realize you probably couldn't hear that, so I'm going to throw that in now. And that also includes the MEP nursing program. One thing too, just to remind everybody, because I had said this verbally, but you can feel free to type in questions in the chat box. We'll pause it a few times throughout the webinar to come back and review them, but Lauren is there to type in quick answers if need be. Another thing about just our different programs, so a lot of these areas overlap. Public health fellows can take classes in planning, for example. We have education students who do work in environmental areas like community garden programs, and we also have several dual degree programs. So right now we have about 5 dual degree fellows, including Lauren, who is doing the dual degree program in business administration and public health.
All right, I'm gonna go over the Coverdell Fellow benefits. Everybody always wants to know.
Introduce yourself briefly since we missed it.
Oh yes, I'm Georgia, the director of the program and the person that works with making sure our fellows are funded. The screen gives the basics here. Our program works with a quarter-time graduate outreach assistantship. That's similar to a teaching or research assistantship, but it's really focused on outreach. And we're a primary user of this category on campus. It allows our fellows to work with a nonprofit, a government agency, an educational organization in the community. And it provides the same benefits that all the other assistantships provide for teaching or research. With a quarter time, fellows commit to approximately 10 hours per week over the academic year. It's about 15 weeks per semester. And the work, as you know, for Coverdell Fellows must benefit an underserved community. The outreach assistantship is offered for up to 2 years and occasionally for a 3rd year upon request. And the benefits that are provided are that you are billed as an in-state student. There is 0 non-resident tuition charged. There is a 50% reduction of the in-state base tuition, and you receive a stipend, which is about $84.50 per academic year. It's paid out bi-weekly, beginning with orientation week, and it ends following the week of graduation. So the calendar changes slightly each year, but basically you're paid during the winter break, during spring break, and during graduation week, even though your hours begin and end with the first and last day of the semester.
Which I forgot, and then I remembered the other day, and I got very excited.
It's very exciting when you're up at the end of the year, and you're like, starting the job, and I have to move to Zambia or someplace, and how am I going to do that? So it can be very helpful. Also, student health insurance is included. It's the cost of that varies from year to year, as I'm sure you know. It's about $2,500 to $2,600 a year. It's considered to be one of the best student health insurance packages in the country. I think we rank third out of the entire United States. And I can verify, we're not saying come here if you have a disease, but it does really well for every peculiar malady that I've seen Peace Corps people bring home. There's also a tiny 10% discount at the U of A bookstore, which can come in handy for certain items. And we also offer a work-study package to incoming fellows that is usually up to around $3,000. Occasionally it's more. It's need-based. It's not, it's used primarily by agencies that would like a fellow who can do a few more hours. And it works really well for some of the academic programs. It's not as feasible for others, but it just depends on the intensity of the academic program and your schedule as to whether or not it's used, but it's offered. So I guess I should just say also, those of you who have been following us closely on peacecorps.gov might have seen for a long time that we came in as a zero-cost university with about another 12 or 15 schools. And I just want to make really clear that the algorithm or the formula that Peace Corps is using is simply that they ask for the cost of tuition and fees, and we subtract from that the value of the package that's given to the student. So our package is more than the cost of tuition and fees, but we'll see a little bit later, I think, in a slide, that we do not cover mandatory fees or program fees. But we do give you a great deal, a great no-interest deal where you don't really have to pay that until around November in the fall and probably April in the spring. So we'll get into that.
And one way that I try to describe that is they include as part of your benefits package the money that you'll make over the course of the year, so that stipend. But when you start the year, you don't have that. So there might be, by the end, if you want to use that $8,400 to cover some of your tuition, then it zeroes out. But then, you need to keep in mind that you'll also need additional money for your living expenses, things like rent. Hopefully you want to eat, all of that. So that is how it shakes out there.
So the value of the package for a non-resident student this year is close to $37,000. And it's around $16,600 for a true Arizona resident. And I continue on. This is still Georgia. So I think that our program gets known pretty widely for being a strong Peace Corps community. And we do provide a lot of additional support. It's not just apply and come and good luck. Over the summer, we provide a weekly communication called Question of the Week. And we put you on a listserv with incoming fellows and set up a Facebook page, just a closed Facebook page, just with the incoming cohort. We do a virtual meet and greet with community partners. This year we did it in May on 2 different dates for about 3 hours, I think it was. It's a way to introduce yourself to the incoming, to all the agencies that are here that are interested in taking on a Coverdell Fellow. You're assigned a mentor who's usually a second or third year student, sometimes even an alum, who generally will be familiar with your academic program, but also you might be matched based on the country you served in or some skills or particular interests that you have. We provide a fair amount of support for planning and making your move to Tucson. We have a pretty great document by fellows, for fellows, that gives advice on moving to Tucson. It includes housing information, neighborhood information, entertainment, food. We're very big on food here, and just lots of things that'll make the move easier and help you connect with other fellows if you're looking for a housemate. And then we'll send out over the summer housing and job announcements. Some people also bring a spouse or partner with them, and that person may be looking for full-time work, or you might be looking for additional work yourself. And then we do an orientation. It's really a 4-part orientation, one with the fellows, one with the agencies, and a more social yet working evening that's a potluck with all current fellows and often alumni. We've had as many as 94 people come to that. It can be a little overwhelming.
Not least because sometimes Georgia has it at her house, so that's why she knows the number so well.
Exactly, right. Yes, anyway, okay, so that's kind of the general summer and working up to arriving here in Tucson.
Yeah. Thanks, Georgia. Yeah, and you'll notice, I don't know if you guys can see my mouse, but there are 2 pictures of me with the same expression on my face, showing how enthusiastic I am about incoming support for incoming fellows. But we will take a pause for a moment. If anyone has any questions, just going over those basic things about the academic programs especially, and some of the benefits, feel free to type them in the box. It looks like we had one question about sending the moving to Tucson guide after the meeting.
It's actually posted on our website, and we can include that link when we email after the meeting. It changes a bit from year to year, but it's a pretty great overview of the Tucson community. And we also have a lot of materials tucked away here and there on the website on the kinds of work we do in the community, posters, that sort of thing. So we'll reveal all of that.
So yes, we can definitely share some of that information.
And this is a photo, I think, from one of our poster sessions in recent years. It's we have about 50 people in the Fellows community, but we also interact with other RPCVs in the larger community. We have a meeting with the Desert Doves, as they're known here, this weekend, and I see some folks from the Washington and Chicago office of Peace Corps in here also.
People love to take free trips to, well, not free, but any trip to Tucson. As someone from Chicago, I can vouch for that.
Especially in the winter.
Okay. So now we're moving on to bringing service home. So most of you have probably heard this phrase before, and this is actually the basis for the Peace Corps Coverdell Fellows Program that's offered across the country and the world with over 100 partner institutions. But I am curious, when you hear this phrase, what comes to mind, or what does this mean to you? So we always like to ask this of people just to get some new ideas. So if you could type it out, we'd love to see what you think. Yeah, so this is the excerpt about it on the Peace Corps website. And it just outlines the requirement that all fellows must complete internships in underserved American communities, allowing them to bring home and expand upon the skills they learned as volunteers. These skills include, these skills in adapting to new cultures, developing and managing projects, dealing with language barriers, and leveraging limited resources attract the attention of prospective schools. So yeah, we've got living a life of service leadership, serving and giving back the community that I grew up in is what bringing service home means to me. And yeah, I think after Peace Corps, I moved to Chicago, and I found that my Peace Corps experience, even though I was in the US, I used the same skills of just listening, going into new communities and work environments, and trying to let the people who had been doing the work a long time, or people who had been living those communities, lead the way, and finding ways to support them. So great answers. And all this has to do with, another person, not forgetting integrating service into your life after it's not just your full-time job. Yeah. 24/7 in Peace Corps. But even when you move back to the US and it's more 45, you can still integrate your service. So all of this goes into the idea that internship in this context, that's what we call it, your outreach assistantship. And this is just one of the requirements that our Coverdell fellows have. We use the term fellowship because your benefits here are in exchange for service. So it's different than a scholarship, which is typically just an outright award with no ongoing commitments. So I'll go over some of the requirements that our Coverdell fellows have during their time here. And time commitment can be a concern for people because there are about 4 categories that we ask fellows to commit to. And I'd say most of our time is spent on the graduate outreach assistantship. So this is where you provide that service to an underserved domestic community. And the service can be direct or indirect, meaning you could do boots on the ground service or research. Last year, I did teaching with a program that works with a diversion program for young people who had been arrested. And this year I'm doing more policy research with a job at United Way looking into policies for preschool expansion. So I've done both. We also have group service projects. We generally have about 6 to 8 group service projects per year, and we ask that our fellows participate in at least 3 of them. We usually kick off the year with a service project at somewhere like the community food bank, where we pack up boxes of food, or one of the community gardens. We've also done projects ranging from planting trees at a local high school, doing trash pickups with the Arizona Conservation Corps. We've tabled at various festivals, prepared meals at one of the local homeless shelters. Basically, we do provide a lot of different opportunities for service projects, and they're very fun. There is a requirement of going to at least 3 of them, but I think most fellows actually end up going to more. So in addition to that assistantship and those service projects, we also ask that fellows do outreach, and that's the 3rd goal outreach of talking about Peace Corps and assisting with recruitment and or talking about our Peace Corps experiences with other audiences. And that is requested 3 times a year. So we can do that with the elementary schools, or some people do presentations here at the University of Arizona. We have a campus recruiter, so we'll often help with some of their recruitment events. Oh yeah, we also have a Peace Corps prep program, which I think is fairly new at a lot of universities. It's in its 2nd year of the program, and it is to assist undergraduates in learning more about the Peace Corps during their academic careers and preparing them to have a stronger application when they go into Peace Corps. So our program, we have a specific designated person that works with prep students, and then we'll do outreach with them. We do coffee sessions with them, and we're actually arranging a group hike to go outside of Tucson with them in a couple of weeks. And then the last requirement that the fellows have is for professional and leadership development. So we ask that fellows participate or attend professional development from their academic departments, from other fellows, attend conferences, and so on and so forth.
I'm going to jump in there too. This is Georgia again. So you've all had a marvelous time learning skills and another culture, and done a lot of boots on the ground. And I like to quote a professor who told an incoming fellow, "You've done boots on the ground. It's time to take what you're doing in your academic program and really moving that up a notch." And with the world as it is, with its many, many challenges, I always love to encourage our fellows to take on leadership roles and to really look forward to where they want to be in their work life and then the world, really, how they want to be. So I think it's really important to keep, many of you have organized conferences in Peace Corps, written grants, taken on projects, worked in the community. So we really challenge you to think about how to do that in this academic setting and really become a part of our community while you're here.
Thanks, Georgia. And then briefly, so one of our flagship events is our outreach showcase. This is held in the spring every year. This year it will actually be held Friday, February 28th from 3 to 6 p.m. And I want to mention that because we always encourage applicants or interested individuals, if you're going to be in Tucson or nearby, this is a great opportunity to come and meet some of the current fellows, learn about outreach assistantship sites. I came and visited on just kind of a lucky coincidence because I was in Phoenix for a wedding that weekend. But yeah, it's a great way to display the work or the research that we've all been doing with our outreach assistantship. So talking more about those outreach assistantships, oops, back. Have Georgia talk a little bit about that.
Okay. The fellows work in the various sectors, generally the same one that they're studying, but not necessarily. It's really up to you what you want to get out of it. And that might be public health, education, sustainability, environment, management, community development, etc. Or you may choose to work with a particular population. For example, uninsured persons, migrant population, resettled refugees, K-12 students, ESL learners, policymakers, we have a very active environmental community here. So there are a lot of different ways to approach deciding what you want to do here. We'll send, as I think I mentioned before, a general call out to our agency listserv. It has about 150 different organizations on it at this point in time. It kind of goes up and down. We also communicate with outreach units at the University of Arizona. We're a cooperative extension institution. We have several agencies, for example, the Rural Health Office in Public Health. A research unit called CIRO is another one that's on women. So there are a lot of different ways to work in the community through the university as well. We have underserved populations on campus as well. We have, we're in an extremely diverse state, so we have sometimes freshman students here who really didn't have great advantages in their high school, but they did get in, but they need a little extra support here. So we've worked with a lot of groups on campus. Sometimes people will work in the K-12 system or the community college system. For example, refugee ESL classes at Pima Community College. And sometimes people work in government. We have a fair number of folks that work for the city of Tucson and Pima County, or we have a couple of small cities around. City of South Tucson is an interesting community that we've worked with for a while. And we have a lot of public land here in Tucson, so we also work with both federal and state and county agencies as well. So we'll share position descriptions that are sent to us from the call with you, and we will share the incoming cohort resumes with the agencies before we do our online meet and greet. So the resume that's prepared for your Coverdell application is the basic document that we will be sharing with a broader community. So think of that not just as a resume for an academic situation, but also one that you would send to a potential employer. And we'll give the cohort a shot at revamping it between admission and the time that we do our meet and greet event online. The online venue that we use is through our alumni association. It's basically a sort of chat box thing where you're randomly matched with different agencies that are on there. We try to break it up, so we have sort of usually a public health or health related day and then a sort of everybody else day, but different agencies will be on, sometimes they'll be on both days or only one just because of their schedules. And you're, as an incoming cohort, Fellows can be on either day or both days as well. And you get about 10 to 12 minutes to chat. So you can have sort of a statement prepared, you have your resume, a photo. You want to prepare your questions in advance. And we go over all this over the summer, and same with the agencies. And it's convenient because you can log in from anywhere in the world. It's easier from some places than others, but we'll certainly give enough notice that you can try to be in a spot where you'll have internet access. And after this meet and greet, it's enough to basically set up an interview time. So then we ask the fellows and the agencies to interview 3 or 4 people and or agencies over the course of the summer. So you might have a more detailed Skype or other Zoom kind of interview, or if you're in the region, you can pop in and actually meet people in person. We don't want people to make offers or accept assignments at the beginning of the summer. We really want to respect the process and take time. Sometimes people, especially those just returning from Peace Corps, are anxious to get everything settled and accept a job and all of that. And I'll just say that the fellows will have more than one choice normally, and to take your time and really investigate the different opportunities, and to think about what you really want to do during your year. And I know it's a complex decision because you don't really know how much time school is going to take, and how settled you'll feel after yet another move. So we want people to make a decision by orientation week in August, but there is a good amount of time over the summer to think it through thoughtfully. Then we'll bring people together to actually meet in person, and we also had a session this year where people could really interface with a lot of the agencies in town. We had probably, I think, 35 agencies at our actual orientation session. So the assistantships are a really great way to become a part of the community and to get involved in whatever your passion is. Tucson's a really interesting, diverse community, as we'll talk about later. And I will say many fellows have leveraged their assistantships into jobs here if they want to remain here. But it has also been a great leverage for moving into other work, moving abroad again, going to Washington, D.C. or the CDC or Portland or San Francisco or Chicago, wherever your heart desires. We've got alumni there and can connect you with them. And if you're really interested in seeing how people had different assistantships and internship sites and how that helped them move into their career, look on our people pages on our website. We have alumni listed there, and you can just kind of click through. There's a search box, so you can search by country or your public, the department that you're applying to, and just see where they have ended up. And if you're comparing schools, it's helpful, kind of comforting, I think, to think, well, if I'm in Arizona, am I going to be able to make it in Washington, D.C. or the CDC? And the answer is yes.
Thanks, Georgia. Okay, so we will, yeah, Lauren's on top of it. She knew what was next. So any questions related to those requirements or about the outreach assistantships? Okay. I'm going to keep going since we got a little bit of a late start, but we can always come back to them at the end if they come in the meantime. Okay, so now talking more about the application and the application process. One thing that we just want to emphasize is that you must apply to both your academic program and our Coverdell Fellows program. I know at a lot of schools, if you mark something that says you did Peace Corps, the academic department will consider you for Coverdell Fellowship or forward it to the point of contact who manages Coverdell Fellowship scholarships. But that is not the case at Arizona, partially because we work with so many different departments and colleges, so that we have our own process for that. So our deadline is January 15th. That is that's our priority deadline. Applications may be submitted through March 1st, but we really encourage you to do the January 15th deadline. That ensures that you'll be read in our first round, and also helps us be able to hopefully get back to you sooner. So it kind of works out well for everybody. So yes, just remember that you must apply to both our Coverdell Fellows program and your academic department. Those two might have different deadlines. Their deadline might be earlier or later than January 15th. And we cannot make an offer to anyone until your academic department admits you. Did you want to jump in there?
I did. I just wanted to remind you that the word deadline does not mean you have to submit it on the deadline day. We strongly encourage you to submit earlier in the application season, like December is a really great time, I think, December and early January. For one thing, academic departments make their better financial offers often to the first round of applicants. So you want to really get cracking now. And just to clarify on the admission, you must be admitted to an academic program. We're going to try to make our offers a little bit earlier, but they definitely are contingent upon academic admission.
Okay. And I do see questions coming in, but I know Lauren is responding to them. So we're going to address them, I think, later, because I want to make sure we get through all of the content. But we'll probably stick around a little longer than 11 since we had that late start. Okay. So the application itself, this year's application is now available on our website. So please take a look if you haven't had a chance to do so. You can absolutely look at it without submitting it. So it's not, going to pop up, and if you open it, you have to submit right then. It requires information about your background, your academic program of interest, your Peace Corps service. We also ask that you upload copies of your DOS, your description of service, the resume that we mentioned earlier that will also be used should you be selected as a fellow, that would be distributed to the different outreach assistantship agencies, and then responses to 3 essay questions. So all of your essays should be combined into one document and uploaded as a single file. A note about the DOS, if you have not finished your service, a note from your country director verifying that you are on track to complete your service, and the letter should also include your intended COS date. That should suffice, correct? Georgia's nodding. Another note, we're often asked if we can waive academic application fees, and that is not something that our office is able to do.
I will add, though, if you are a diverse student, have been a McNair student, there are a variety of programs that are eligible, or a variety of sponsorships that you can check. And if you have a question about that, we can put that link out there so you can find it more easily. It's basically under the diversity fellowship arena on our grad college webpage, which is very informative.
Yeah, I think that might be listed as one of our FAQs also. Okay. So now I'll have Georgia talk a little bit about the admissions process.
All right. Well, first I want to say that the program is competitive. That's a blessing and a curse. Our average number of applicants over time has been in the range of 65 to 70. The actual range has been a low of about 38 and a high of 97, which was last year. So you never know is the moral of the story. I'm a longtime experienced grants writer, and I will say don't get bogged down in the stats. If it's something you want to do, put your heart into it and go for it. How is the class selected? How many do we accept each year? And how many applicants? So applicants I've already mentioned. In terms of the number that we try to admit, we have 50 outreach assistantships available each year. So we try to balance first and second and a few third-year people. So I would say 20 to 25 is our target for an incoming cohort. But again, it can vary a little bit depending on what's going on. In terms of the way We accept and rank. I know this varies across the country. At our school, we collaborate with, pardon?
For the next one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, no, it's a little different. I'm still talking about how we review them, sorry. We'll work with the academic program and get the academic program rankings. Again, that's another reason to apply in a timely fashion to the academic program. And we will also read and rank. And by we, I mean our professional staff as well as alumni are invited to read who either generally are in the discipline that the applicant is in, or perhaps you know, have sort of overlapping interest or can kind of understand. We will do our best to match with the academic program, but we also are thinking about our agencies in the community and the special needs that we have here in Tucson, which might include languages, diverse skills that you may have used or just picked up earlier in your life. For example, I usually hire a fellow here in our office. In fact, 2 of them, Lisa and Lauren. And so I'm looking for certain kinds of skills that are going to work well with us. And different agencies in the community also may have things going on that would be of interest to us. So we look carefully at your resume and your job history. And what you are able to provide here is a fairly skilled or very skilled intern. The first round, we're already getting applications, so we will start sending them out. We're recruiting our readers right now, and basically the heart of the review process will be taking place in January and February. We're working with a lot of different readers depending on the size of the process. So we basically have to get those back and run our numbers and do our rankings. So it takes a little bit of time. You can help us speed that process up by the way you submit your materials. For example, if you follow instructions and add your name to your file, no one in the office will have to do that for you. If you get everything submitted as we requested, it's going to speed things along for you. So we really appreciate that. We will try to make our first round of offers pretty quickly. I'll remind you that if you're already looking at graduate schools, most larger schools have signed an agreement with the Council of Graduate Schools, and people, I think, kind of misread it, but if you actually look at that memorandum, it says no applicant is required to make a response to the academic offer before April 15th. So that April 15th target date is what most schools are working around. And you'll find here at an institution as large as ours, we have departments that make offers very, very early, probably as early as December and January in some cases, like the nursing program. In other cases, for smaller departments that are hungry for students, that process can be going on all the way through the summer. And I know that especially at the University of Arizona, we're trying to increase the number of international students. So there's a lot of discussion going on about making the admission process a bit more rolling. But for us, we have a lot of things going on with the communities. So we're sticking to our guns. We really encourage you to get it in by January 15th. And then the notices will come out. I hate to say it, but they'll come out when we get all our scores back and get it worked out. So give us a little time and just try to, like submitting a grant, try to be patient with it. And we hope that you'll hear from us in mid to late March if you're in that first round of offers. But often it goes on and is a little bit later. It's frustrating, I know, because you're often balancing offers from different schools. All right, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. How to be a competitive applicant. Remember, I guess we say it is competitive. Remember also that we are familiar with Peace Corps and Peace Corps experience. And I know personally quite a number of country directors, and I know many, many Peace Corps volunteers. And I find that we understand that not all Peace Corps experiences were amazing or fulfilling or what you expected. And what we're really interested in is how you matured and grew from the process of being in Peace Corps, how it affected your life, how it affected your direction. So we are asking questions that we hope will elicit that kind of information. So when we ask, talk about a challenge or a difficult time, and it doesn't even have to be Peace Corps. You may be, somebody who's been in the job market for 20 years for all we know, because we take people of all ages and stripes and whatnot. Think about something that really made a difference or really kind of mattered in your life. And that's the kind of essay that we want, not just, oh, people wouldn't talk to me when I first got to my site. We know that. I'm a community planner. I know that too. I've sat in community meetings for half my life. So think carefully about what you want to tell us. And, maybe you're a person who has a golden life and everything is great. And that's amazing too. Think about that kind of privilege and make it a good story. Tell us your story. That's what we want to know. We're also looking at our applicants holistically. You're not just a GRE score and a GPA or somebody who's been out of school for 10 years and is terrified of taking the GRE again. Not all departments require it anymore. So some of our very top departments no longer require it. So if that's a concern for you, talk to them. But if you were skating in with the 2.5 to a 2.9, you're going to be having to either take some additional credits to get your overall GPA up to a 3.0 or more, or your department is going to have to really love you and request an exception on the GPA. So just be aware and talk carefully to the academic department about any academic rankings that you may have, and we get that. Then I would say, as a longtime grant writer, I'm not necessarily reading all this to you, but as a longtime grant writer, usually my first advice to anybody writing a large grant, not a $1,500 Peace Corps grant, is follow the instructions. And, read our writing prompts carefully. And we find some people sort of gloss over things, including me. I did that in a great way a week or two ago, but really try to respond and understand what the questions are. We want to know your focus, not just that it would be cool to be in Tucson and cool to be in a great community, but really where are you taking your life? And we also understand that your direction may have changed in Peace Corps. You may not be firmly set on a direction. I sort of divide the world up into those who knew what they wanted to do when they were 5 years old and the rest of us. So we can understand that, but both in your academic essay and in your Coverdell essay, make a case. And you need to think about that case carefully, that it's one that makes sense for you and where you can best, kind of see your best, most optimistic self being. We're looking for people that illustrate or have demonstrated commitment to the third goal of Peace Corps. If you don't know what that is, go out and read about it. And we want to know how you've worked in underserved communities around the world or at home or both. And really, I also tell people, we want people here that want and need to be here. You're a good fit with the academic program. You're a good fit with the Coverdell program that we have, sort of a big, noisy, slightly messy, but fun one, where we really encourage people to get involved. One of my best sort of exit interview comments was that I feel more at home in Tucson than I ever did in my home community. So we really are looking for depth and passion and skill here. Not much. Yeah, there you go. I think that covers it all.
Great.
And if you have questions, feel free. Yeah. All right. Okay. And here's the boring slide, but many times during the week, I groan. I can't tell you about the GRE score that's needed for your academic application or what GPA, I do know what GPA you need to get in, but for anything that relates to the academic department, like, is there a faculty person I can talk to? Do you do this kind of research? Spend a little time. I know you don't always have great internet access, so we definitely understand that. But there is a graduate admissions coordinator for each academic program. They're listed on the grad college front page under, if you search programs, that will give you a little bird's eye view of the department, their requirements, who's who, and then go to their website on a good day in the office when it's clear outside and the electricity is running, and try to get in there and look at the research interests of the department, see what the alumni for the department are doing professionally, and make those kind of connections with the academic program, because they're the ones that really have to admit you. And then we're all things Peace Corps, the Peace Corps Fellows application, how our funding works. We can make referrals. We do have a good sense of the interdisciplinary nature of our institution. We are really well known nationally and internationally for our overlap. Something like 70 or 80% of the faculty serve on more than one faculty, many of those dual degree programs, graduate interdisciplinary programs, etc. So we're happy to sort of map that out for you. And then we've already talked about moving here, fellows orientation, connecting up with internship opportunities that may not be on our short or long list. Okay.
Yeah, and we do recognize that it is a little after 11 now, so if you had only blocked off 1 hour, no hard feelings if you need to go. We have about 4 more slides, so and they're pretty short, so it'd probably be about 5 more minutes, and then we'd answer some questions. So if you need to go, no worries.
I'll be quick on this one. This is laid out very well on the slide. Be aware of your academic deadline and hit it early. Submit both your academic and Coverdell Fellow applications. Tell the others, if you're still in country, to do the same. And come visit us if you can. File the FAFSA. That's the federal aid thing. It will determine your need. It makes setting up your funding easier at this or other institutions. Make sure that the University of Arizona can see it. And you can do that anytime. It's based on last year's income. So if you're in Peace Corps, you have no money, so get it in there quick. And that'll just help with your financing questions. And those are the main things we want you to know and to work on right now.
Okay, and yeah, our last portion was just going to be talking about Tucson and just what a wonderful place it is to live in. So I'll start. I love how diverse Tucson is. We're only an hour from the Mexico border, and I grew up in the Midwest. I grew up near Chicago and went to school over there. So I had never really spent a lot of time in the Southwest, and now I've gone to Mexico, I think at least 3 times in the past year for different projects with school. I did one trip with one of the other departments down to a national park in Mexico, and then also went there for a couple days for a little beach trip. So that's been very fun. But we also, just in Tucson itself, we have a large population of resettled refugees. Arizona has historically ranked in the top 10 of states that resettle refugees. So there's a lot of diversity, a lot of languages spoken here, and a lot of different cultures that call Tucson home. It's also beautiful. I'm sure you've heard the rumors, they're true. Right now, it's probably about 75 outside, rode my bike in. You can run, cycle. We have a lot of rock climbers in the Fellows program, a lot of hikers, and you can do that all through what used to be the winter for me. We also are very near some wonderful parks and different elevations. Mount Lemmon is right outside the city, and that elevation change cools things off by about 20 or 30 degrees. So if you really miss snow, you can still access it. And during the summer, that can be a nice place to beat the heat. And housing is really affordable here too. So the quality of life is great. In Chicago, I honestly pay the same rent that I paid in Chicago, but in Chicago I had a small studio apartment, and now I have a 2-bedroom little house. And I also have a porch and a yard, which are 2 things I never thought, I could never even imagine having for myself. And in addition to that, there are always a lot of fun events happening. We have some annual Tucson events, different street fairs, festivals like Tucson Meet Yourself, and there are always just different art events going on, both on campus and outside of campus around the community. Most fellows, though, probably tell us that their favorite thing about Tucson is the great Peace Corps community. So that's even just beyond the Fellows program. In Tucson, we know of at least 400 to 600 returned Peace Corps volunteers who have settled around here. And that includes about over 100 alumni of the Fellows program, and then many RPCVs that are on the faculty and staff of the university. And a lot of our alumni have gone on to be site supervisors for the different outreach assistantships. So it's a really, it's a wonderful place to live, and I've really enjoyed my time here. Okay. Do you want to chime in?
I'll chime in. I grew up in West Texas in an oil town and went to UT Austin, and then I moved to Columbus, Ohio, where I was a city planner. And when we moved here, which was about 1992, we were getting settled. I was married, had a couple of young kids, went down to Dillard's in the mall, and I'm walking through looking at stuff, and somebody looks at me and smiles. And it just cracked me up, because I'm like thinking, why is that person smiling at me? Ohio is pretty friendly too. So it was, I like that Tucson is a friendly place. You can chat with people, pick up a conversation with just about anybody around you. And there are a lot of really interesting people here from a lot of different places, and I think maybe that's one reason they're friendly, is people try to connect here in a lot of ways and over a lot of really interesting and different issues. It is a great place to be in the out of doors. We have Olympic level runners and swimmers and divers here, and cyclists and all of that. The cultural events are wonderful. We're on the map in terms of music, I would say. We get a lot of really interesting music here and have a lot of great musicians here. We also have excellent regional theater, and a lot of cultural events if indoor things appeal to you. And we're really close to other metropolitan areas. If you want to hop on a quick plane to LA or drive over, we're about 6 hours from San Diego, 4 hours from Puerto Penasco in Mexico. And yeah, it's pretty easy to get around. Arizona is an incredibly diverse and beautiful state. Lots of things going on. And I think I used to tell people in the beginning, it's another Peace Corps country, come on down. So with the border issues, environmental issues, all of that, it's really a great place to continue your Peace Corps service. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. Okay, so that wraps up our formal presentation. I will just briefly go over and know the questions that Lauren had answered as we were going along. There was one about the outreach showcase and what kind of requirement that was, if it fell into one of our 4 categories. And it doesn't actually fall into one of those categories. It's kind of its own separate requirement, but it does check the boxes of the outreach assistantship and professional development. There was a question about working full-time. And generally, fellows do not work full-time, though there are some programs where it could be manageable.
Public administration offers classes in the evening, and so do some of the programs in the College of Education. So that's commonly where the full-time workers are. I've had, it's pretty easy in both of those departments. Others, not so easy.
Yeah, I think for me, when I started, I was a little nervous to work even beyond the 10 hours a week when I was first getting acclimated to grad school. And then as time went on, I found that I had a little bit of extra time and I felt comfortable taking things on. And I think a lot of, especially the second year fellows, they probably work an average of 20 hours a week. And that could be through the assistantship and then a work study position, something they found on their own. There were some people that worked waitressing at restaurants. And then a lot of people have a second teaching assistantship or a research assistantship through the university that gives them an extra 10 hours a week and some extra money.
And waives the rest of your in-state tuition.
Well, yeah.
Always a plus.
All right. So if there are no more questions, just know that we'll be looking for your applications. We're excited to get them and review them. We'll also be holding another webinar on Monday, December 16th at 12 p.m. And at the moment, I'm thinking that that one will be more focused on writing your application, tips for the essays, or potentially bringing in some of the current fellows to talk about their experiences. So if you have any strong feelings either way, do let us know of what kind of webinar you'd like to see. And then just a second reminder, oh, and next Friday, if anyone is near Tucson, we're having an in-person information session at 2 p.m. at our office here. And then our poster session, our outreach showcase in February on the 28th. So thank you to everybody for joining us today. Thank you for your patience as we tried out some new technology on not our usual computer. Now that we figured it out, I think the future ones will go a lot smoother. So, all right, wrap it up.
Thanks so much, and good luck with your application process this year.